So, Melissa Ciummei, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
You're welcome.
So I really appreciated your presentation this morning at the World Council of Health. You had a hard-hitting message, and I think it resonated with a lot of people, but it really alarmed a lot of other people because it was, you're a realist, and you tell it like it is. So tell me in a nutshell, what was your message this morning? What were you trying to convey to the crowd today?
Today what I was trying to explain is the digital ID has to be, you can't have access to the central bank digital currency without the digital ID. I think what my expression is, it's the last gate to rebel at. If you accept that, that's a ratchet system and there's no going back to it. It's going to be brought in very sneakily. It's going to be, well, they tell us, the 2018 identity in a digital world, for access to subsidies, to education, to government services, to healthcare. And if you look, well, that's what they tell us, 2018. Is that playing out? Well, that's how it is with the Adar app, that's how it is in Iran, and the DIA app is the state in a smartphone. So that's what we have to be so careful for, because we're not really, our eye isn't on the ball for accepting it. We have to be careful what information that we're giving out with biometric ID.
Yeah.
And completely reject it, do not take part in it, no matter how difficult it is. With the Adar app, there was a Supreme Court case where you shouldn't be at a disadvantage if you don't have it. It might be inconvenient, but we have to push past inconvenience.
Absolutely. So it's going to cost us. As we resist the digital ID, the central bank digital currency, it might be uncomfortable. It's going to make our life awkward, right?
It takes sacrifice. It's going to take sacrifice, but we have to think about future generations. And so you might have to make a little bit more phone calls. Right now, my son needs physical for boxing. I'm finding it a struggle to get somebody to do that and pay them cash.
Yeah.
But I'm persevering. So you have to be tenacious with it. These people are tenacious. We have to be tenacious.
Yes, and your message today about use cash. Support the businesses that are using cash, and if you're supporting the businesses that do not accept cash, you're building your own prison.
If you use tap, tap, tap on your phone, your phone is going to become your prison warden. So use cash. Don't buy into the system. Do not support cashless businesses, and that is a sacrifice, because maybe you don't get to eat in your favourite place and go to your favourite bar, but you have to make that sacrifice. And any business that even considers carbon tracking, just absolutely step out. It's working. These multinationals are now backing off of what's happening, because voting at the ballot box, I say it never works. Maybe sometimes it works. But voting with your pound, that's your energy, that works.
Yes. So you mentioned about the credit cards that are starting to carbon track on your behalf. All it sounds very lovely. You know, they'll keep track of it for you. It's voluntary at this point, but I would say we both feel as though this eventually will become mandatory. They'll track your carbon footprint and then cut you off if you exceed that. So it's interesting how it's being rolled out by some credit cards as an option.
Yes, you have the Do Black card, MasterCard Do Black.
Yeah.
That literally on their site, it's their words, it will cut you off should you reach your carbon limit. They're using this, we're malleable right now for being virtuous.
Yes.
So they're jumping on that right now to make us virtuous about carbon, so be aware of what carbon you're using up. They don't. The people that are most concerned about carbon footprint seem to be doing the least. That's because we're moving into carbon becoming a currency, not just for businesses. It has been since the 1992 Kyoto Protocol. We're moving now into that being a currency for individuals.
Yeah.
So they can buy your carbon credits, they can remain virtuous, so they can continue living their life.
Yeah.
And we get to live in the pods, eat the bugs, and take the cold showers and sell them more carbon credits.
Well,
That's
when
the
you
idea.
do, I agree. And when you look at the lifestyle of the predator class or the elites, I hate to call them the elites, but
Elitists.
when you look at the way they're living, they've got their private jets, they've got their yachts, they're living big, and they're having filet mignon, but they're telling us to eat bugs.
Well, they know that what's happening on a global scale right now. So there's almost, we're near about to hit 9 billion people in the world. But you have the nations that we would have been parasitic of that are now, they're rising up and they're demanding higher living standard, which means more energy use, and the economy is energy. So they come from a position of shortages, and they want to get a hold on this now so they can maintain their lifestyle and reduce ours, because with you can either reduce the population or ration out energy, or both.
Yes. So what timeline? What is the timeline that you see this being rolled out? I mean, you're from Ireland, so in Europe, what's your expectation in terms of how quickly this might happen?
Well, they're rolling out the digital ID is now going to be fast tracked with DIA. They want to export that. It was 3/4 of it was funded by US aid, so that was a model, a test model to bring that to the rest of the world. They're going to try and fast track that. There is a possibility in a banking collapse that will be your saviour. It's important that people remember that the government don't produce anything. So those that think that the government can step in to save them, the government have to take from somebody to give to somebody else. So the government can't step in and save you on this one. I would see that, well, they tell us 2030. 2025, you're going to really significantly see the rollout of central bank digital currency if they can hold the economy together for that long. If the crisis comes before the reset, they lose control. A real crisis, and that could be hyperinflation. They're working on demand destruction right now with interest rates. The inflation, we're in superinflation right now. When it tips into hyperinflation, that's psychological. That's when people realise that their purchasing power is being decreased, and they start buying up because they know it's better to buy it now than buy it in the future, and that exaggerates it, and then you really tip into hyperinflation. If we were to tip into hyperinflation, they would lose control and they would have to shut everything down and bring in their central bank digital currency immediately. I'm not sure if they're ready. While they might be ready for it, I don't think they are, because you need a phone and you need internet access. So have they got enough 5G access for all of this? And as you say, your phone is your prison warden, so step away from your phone. But they would be forced to roll it out. The psychology of the people, that's what they're kind of working towards, the psychology of the people, getting people into using your phone to pay for everything. Do not use your phone. It should be, you own it, stop letting it own you.
So are you seeing a flight of capital from Ireland, or in Europe, are you seeing a flight of capital out of Europe? Because a lot of people are predicting that the European Union is going to be the first. The EU is going to be the first to collapse, and the euro is going to be the first currency to collapse. Do you see a mass exodus of money to the US?
Well, the dollars, you can't there's no certainties, there's only possibilities and probabilities, but there isn't an alternative yet for the dollar as a reserve currency. And it would have to be based on trust. And right now, even with the BRICS coming out, there isn't, you are talking about 50% of the world population that could move into that trust, but it's still not going to topple the dollar. So the dollar is going to be the last one to fall. With what's happening in Europe right now with Nord Stream, that has been a big hit on Germany, that's the economic powerhouse.
It is
Europe.
Absolutely, and I wonder at what point Germany will realize that they're being played, and they'll push back. That's a really important. What Germany does or how they respond is critical.
Yes,
because they're a powerhouse.
Yeah, well, Nord Stream, it was at a time where in a cold winter, the citizens could have put the government under pressure.
Yes.
Against the sanctions. The sanctions are not hurting anybody but those imposing them.
Yeah.
So to cut off that possibility was convenient.
Very much so. So are you seeing in Europe people getting quite nervous about moving, having their money in the banks? Do you see a mass exodus of deposits from the banks? Because in Canada we're seeing that. Bank managers will say, well, they're trying to stop the flow. Usually through U.S. bank accounts is where people are moving their money and then on into hard assets. But are you seeing a mass exodus of money from the banks here in Europe or in Ireland?
Not.
People aren't getting nervous about the bail-ins?
No, people aren't. They don't seem to be really aware. It's that normalcy bias that they think it's not going to happen.
Yes.
That has happened before. Those who are aware what is going on are very nervous, and they know that we are in a super bubble. So do you put your what do you want to own if inflation continues and war continues and the bubble pops?
Yeah.
Because the bubble is in the bond, stock and property market.
Exactly.
So people are looking for where they can. It's not a time right now that you think about where I can make the most amount of money.
It's preservation. Preservation of capital. So where are people, the smart people who are savvy in Europe or in Ireland, where are people parking their money?
Real tangible assets.
Hard assets.
Yes.
So what are the biggest hard assets right now that you hear of?
For me, it depends what it is, but if you have excess money that you don't, if there's anything that you think that you're going to need in the next 12 to 18 months, so we know that previously farmland was one of the best assets to hold.
That's right. It's all about food, self-sufficiency,
Yes.
food and water.
So that's the thing. I'm a gold bug, and I can argue a case for why gold.
It's a good hard asset.
Yes.
I agree.
But physical, the whole point of it is that you don't have counterparty risk. But we do know that should there be a real chaotic situation, if I have an ounce of gold and you have a bag of rice,
food will trump gold.
Yes.
Yeah. So I agree with you.
Holding on to gold, you need to have
Yes.
everything else. Gold is a 5 to 10 year plan.
Yeah.
Right now, you need to have everything that you think that you're going to need, even
Yes.
for 6 months. Should it get really chaotic?
Yes, I agree with you. Supplements, your medicine,
Yes.
Ammunition, a lot of the practicalities, and alcohol. I say to people, alcohol's a pretty good asset to own.
Yes.
Because in the crisis, people want to smoke, they want to drink, and they want to eat chocolate.
Yes.
So those are probably good investments right now. So how do you see it playing out? If there is a collapse, what do you think? What does the scenario look like? What do you think is going to crumble first, and what?
It seems to be banks. They're trying to keep everything. They want to reduce consolidate the banks into bigger banks. But it's like pulling levers between getting rid of the smaller banks without spooking the general public.
Yes.
So that seems to be what they're doing right now. I think they're just going to keep on printing money.
Printing money.
Because if you know that the currency it's on the way out, you may as well keep on printing because you have the quintillion effect. So when you print it, you can get to buy up the assets quickly before at the price that they're currently at until it filters down into the economy.
Yeah.
So I think that they're just going to keep on printing. If you look at BlackRock's paper from 2019, basically it's a move towards central banks buying it all.
Yes.
Just keeping it propped up, buying it all until the collapse happens, and then we move into a completely different currency system. It's not central bank digital currency, it's central bank digital control.
Yes.
And that seems to be playing out that it's going to be with social and carbon credits. That's how they're going to manage to control the economy and control the entire population.
Yeah. So are you seeing the likes of Vanguard and BlackRock snap up real estate still in Ireland?
BlackRock have pulled out of they've pulled out of the ban.
Interesting.
BlackRock are coming under pressure.
Yes, they are. Yes.
Right now. We had Lloyd's, the Project Generation, buying up all the properties. But even now, like I said, there's no certainties, so they're kind of pulling back right now because everything could collapse.
And they have a lot. They have a lot of
BlackRock,
commercial exposure. I think BlackRock has a lot of commercial real estate, and that's under major attack. Well, not attack. It's a major decline.
Yeah.
So their portfolios are struggling.
Yes.
And but they have restrictions on withdrawals.
Yeah.
So you can't get. You don't have liquidity when you're with BlackRock. And that's a little bit, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
But a lot of it is numbers on a screen. We have been subjected to the idea that the more numbers you have on a screen, the wealthier you are. And people are going to realise, should the banks fail, that there's no backing to any of this.
Yeah.
There is no money.
Yeah.
It's, 1% is money. It's mostly debt.
Yes.
And when people realise that there's no backing to any of this, that's when it's global civil war.
It's exactly. It's chaos. It'll be like a global Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, you want to be able to survive that period of time. And I think, okay, no debt. I say to people, get rid of your debt. That's probably something you say as well.
I do. It's what I've told people for about 2 years. I was told I was crazy at the time that there wasn't going to be. Remember, inflation was transitory.
Yes.
And we're not even thinking about raising interest rates.
No.
They're going to have to keep, in order to, well, if they wanted to stem inflation, they would have to put the interest rates up above what the inflation rate is. That would collapse everything.
And it's impossible. You can't be printing money.
Yeah.
And it's just
Well,
the
and
two move together.
yeah.
You print money. There is inflation.
Yes.
And
That's
they're not
what
going to stop
inflation
printing
is.
money.
Yeah, it's more
Yeah.
money chasing the same amount of
Exactly.
expenses.
Exactly.
So they have to try and balance the levers of inflation with interest rates.
Yes.
But they're trying. The purpose of the interest rates is demand destruction, to keep the economy cool in order for the transition. If inflation runs hotter, that lever doesn't work anymore.
Exactly.
But if you can't afford to pay off your debt, get it in a fixed rate, and as long term as you can get it. That way you know where you stand. With variable rate, you're at the mercy of these levers.
Yes. I also been advising clients, get your mortgage out of a bank, and if you have a family member who has deposits in a bank, do family banking right now is a really good idea. You don't want liabilities with an institution that you don't trust. They can call it. When things go sideways.
People don't realize.
That's right. In Canada, a lot of the fine print on the mortgages, that fixed term mortgages, they can call it if they have an insolvency issue. So, this is a precarious position to be in. Maybe my last question would be, how best can we sabotage, aside from using cash, what else can we do to sabotage these globalists in terms of their agenda? Because it's very clear what this is all about: control and making us poor. We will own nothing and be happy. How can we best sabotage their efforts?
I think the problem with humans is that we love to be we love to be controlled. We do, and we love to delegate responsibility.
Yeah.
It's about taking back responsibility.
Yeah.
So there is alternatives being set up, because this is going off a cliff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are aware, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah, they're frozen.
Yes. So
yes.
when you are creating alternatives, like within, like say, you can have complementary currencies that work in a local community, with school and with every aspect. If you seek those out and support them, you need to talk to people. They're trying to. We are in an information war. What I find is that when you tell people this is happening, that's happening, people shut off, because first of all, it's frightening.
It's overwhelming.
And
yes.
They don't like being told.
No.
So ask questions and say, well, do you want the government to be able to control your assets? Well, it is programmable money. What do you think about that? When you ask a question, you're targeting their critical thinking, that they have to
formulate exactly
answer, instead of just being told and being scared and not wanting to listen to and avoiding you.
That's a really important point. get the people, ask the very good questions that elicit some thought
Yeah.
on their end. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for your time. Keep speaking out. You've been a wonderful warrior in all of this in the financial world. So I appreciate what you've done thus far, and keep up the great work. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.